From the Puget Sound in Washington state to the shores of Lake Michigan in the Midwest to the Florida coastline, across the country, states are developing methods to protect their environments from climate change. Reporter Rick Karr has a story of one city experimenting with an unusual creature with the hope of protecting its shoreline.
Just before 7 a.m. on a summer morning is pretty much the perfect time to get out into the water and gather some oysters.
If there's any oysters, they kind of occur in these groups. We call them clumps.
These oysters are not for dinner. They came from the mouth of the Bronx River, where it flows into the East River. They're for science. Allison Fitzgerald from the environmental group New York, New Jersey Baykeeper says she and other marine biologists have been interested in these oysters for about a decade.
Back in 2004, the Parks Department started to notice, as you see here on the tires and stuff, all these natural oysters here. We didn't put any of these here, they just happened to be here.
Even with all the pollutants in the water and all of the sewage overflows that go into the water when there's a big rainstorm, right in the shadow of LaGuardia Airport and Hunts Point Market, the scientists wanted to find out how they're surviving here and to see whether it was possible to get more of them to survive. Fitzgerald and a group of volunteers came out to check the artificial oyster beds environmental groups set up last year and find out how many of the baby oysters that had been planted had survived and reproduced. The theory is that if an oyster bed can make it here at the mouth of the Bronx River, it can make it anywhere. And the waters around New York could use more oysters.
Oysters are able to filter the water, so if there's any particulates in it, they will remove that. They're also able to harbor pollutants.
Oysters also clump together when a bed thrives, and Fitzgerald says that's the key to restoring the marine environment.
So they build up this like 3D reef, like a coral reef, and then the fishies swim through, and the worms and the crabs, and everybody creates this whole healthy ecosystem that if the oyster reef wasn't here, it would just be a vast mud flat, which a lot of things can't grow on.
This is one of several projects aimed at bringing more oysters to the metro area. But even the most ambitious one, which hopes to plant 1 billion of them in and around New York Bay, won't come close to restoring how many used to be here.
New York was thought to be the oyster capital of the world. There were 350 square miles of oyster reefs, and up to 6 billion, maybe even 9 billion oysters were in the harbor.
Emily Driscoll is a documentarian whose film Shell Shocked looks at efforts to bring oysters back to New York. She says a thriving population of oysters could help New York's shoreline.
We saw what happened during Hurricane Sandy. We're susceptible to floodings. Oyster reefs can diminish some of that wave energy.
Is that a horseshoe crab? Yeah.
The volunteers in the Bronx included a couple of architects from Scape, the firm that's planning an artificial oyster reef along the shore of Staten Island. Allison Fitzgerald of New York, New Jersey Baykeeper says the project at the mouth of the Bronx River gives volunteers an opportunity to feel connected to the water that surrounds most of the city.
I love the idea of having all these college students and volunteers come out here and showing them why I'm so excited to be here. This is like get in the water, get the waders on, see what the actual reef looks like, work alongside the actual scientists, and get out here and do some good work.
Fitzgerald says we'll never be able to fully restore the waters around New York to the way they were when there were billions of oysters in them. But it'll be a step in the right direction if more New Yorkers come down to the water for a perspective on how the urban environment fits into the natural one.
You're right by Hunts Point, you're right by LaGuardia, you're right by Rikers Island, you're in the South Bronx. And it's beautiful. There's egrets on the shore, there's crabs out there, there's oysters, there's mud. It's a great place to be.
According to a new report by the Nature Conservancy, oyster beds are among the world's most endangered marine habitats. More than 85% of the world's oyster reefs have been lost, and remaining reefs are at less than 10% of their original abundance.